Today, I would like to talk about the church's worship format. Many people go to church and worship. But does that worship format really suit me? The format of worship may vary slightly from church to church. Typically, worship consists of elements such as worship, praise, prayer, Bible verses, sermons, and communion. Church is a space to worship Jesus Christ and share His grace through worship. The form of worship may vary depending on the gender of the church, religious traditions, regional culture, etc. Some churches may prefer a democratic format, adhering to a participatory and creative worship style. The form of worship may vary depending on religious beliefs, personal beliefs, and alignment with the church's culture and denomination. The appropriateness of each individual's form of worship may vary depending on his or her spiritual needs and faith practice. The essence of worship is always gratitude and worship for the love and grace of Jesus Christ. The most important thing as a Christian is whether worship helps believers communicate with God and grow spiritually. These days, worship is conducted in a variety of ways. It may be held online, offline, or in a mixed format. This is also part of the church's efforts to provide a worship experience that adapts to the times. The form of worship must be consistent with the individual's religious practice and devotion. For example, some people may prefer a traditional worship format, while others may want a modern, realistic worship experience. Find the form of worship that best suits your religious practice and beliefs. Rather than being too obsessed with the format of worship, it is more important to really meet God and experience His Word through worship. We must aim to achieve spiritual revival through worship and spread God's goodwill. Worship is a time to worship God, grow spiritually, fellowship, and receive instruction. Consider whether your worship format can achieve these goals. The format of worship may vary, depending on the church's culture and denomination's practices. Consider what worship format your church adopts, and whether that format is consistent with your church members. Some churches offer a variety of worship formats, and church members can choose from them. You can also experience various worship formats to find one that suits you. The format of worship may vary, depending on the church's culture and denomination's practices. Consider what worship format your church adopts, and whether that format is consistent with your church members. Make sure your worship format supports personal spiritual growth. Consider whether worship can meet your personal spiritual needs and support spiritual challenge and growth. The form of worship is subjective, and there may be many different preferences and opinions. Respect the opinions and preferences of others, but choose a form of worship that suits your religious needs. Religion and worship are areas that are very personal and greatly influenced by beliefs. Therefore, it is important to choose a form of worship that suits your religious beliefs and spiritual needs. It is also helpful to consider the culture and worship format of your church or denomination to make the right decision.